On internet. There we go. All right, I think we are live. So, hello, friends, and welcome to the Original Gamers podcast. My name is Joel Watt, otherwise known as Obi-Watt Kenobi. Patrick is not here this week. That's why I'm hosting, because this is my game. And joining me, as always, is Nolan Brown. Say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. And filling the third spot this week is Nathan Davis. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
All right, cool. So this week we are talking about Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, one of my favorite games from my teenage years. But before we get into that, what has everyone been up to? Nathan, you're the guest, so you get to start.
Well, let's see. Gaming-wise, I've been experimenting a little bit with gaming on Linux. That's an interesting experience. It's a lot easier than it used to be because Steam is now on Ubuntu and most of the other Linux platforms, and there's over 1,000 games on the Steam now that are Linux compatible. And so,
awesome.
And it's not all just indie games either. Some of it's AAA titles like Borderlands 2, CS:GO, and pretty much all the Valve titles.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Cool.
All right. Anything else going on? Anything cool
what's
or
the difference
interesting?
between Linux and just like regular? Because I don't know about such things.
I don't know. Yeah, my second brother uses Linux on his laptop, and I just think he's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, we are a little bit crazy, but you know what? We don't have to pay $100 for Windows either.
There you go.
I don't care. I don't have to worry about every little plugin, and I've been using Windows for 25 years, so I'm very familiar with its ins and outs and how to get things working.
Touché.
So, anyway, Nolan, what have you been up to?
Well, if you all can't tell, based on the smooth sound of my voice, I was sick last week. And while I am feeling better, I still sound like, well, this. So, for the most part, though, last week, let's see, what was I doing? I was playing a lot of Monster Hunter. Just more teaser videos for Monster Hunter World came out, so I'm just like, yes.
Oh, yeah, there's an MMO coming up, right?
Yeah, what's funny is it's coming out on the Xbox One and PS4 first, and then on the PC later, which I found funny that it's not all at the same time or something, but so I'm very much looking forward to that. Like, that's probably the biggest thing to come out of E3 this year that I'm most excited about, strangely enough.
Yeah, I wasn't excited about E3 this year.
There wasn't a whole lot, like, at least nothing new per se that I was excited about. There's like other stuff that I already knew was coming out that looks cool, but yeah. So I was playing a lot of that, and then just kind of goofing around on Steam. I got Final Fantasy IV on that, so I was like, I played. I started to play that, and then other things. I don't know. I didn't play much this week, unfortunately. But, like I said, I was sick.
Right.
I really didn't do anything. But
yeah, being sick is no fun.
yeah.
Like, sometimes you can be sick and play video games. A lot of times it's as you become an adult, like, being sick is not fun. You just want to die.
Yeah, it's really just like, this is a waste. I could be doing so many.
So anyway, I've been playing Breath of the Wild nonstop, and just today my 2DS XL came in, so I was setting it up in anticipation of later today when I'll be playing some what's the one? A Link Between Worlds.
Oh,
So
right,
I
right.
already have like 4 or 5 games for it, and yeah. And I don't know what happened this week. I am skipping out on an event tonight to do this podcast.
Okay.
Once a month at church, the ladies have an event on Monday night, and as the tech guy, I'm supposed to be there doing tech stuff. But I have one of my volunteers covering for me. I was like, because I think the last 2 times the event was happening, I had to skip out on OGC. I was like, no, I can't do that. It's my game. Like, I have to be here.
Especially because I haven't played this one either. I played the first one, but not this one.
Oh, you never played this? Oh, it's on
No.
Steam, bro. You gotta get it.
I know.
On Steam. It's that Star Wars pack that's like every May 4th it goes on sale. Like, it's totally worth it. You get like 80 games for $100 or something. It's amazing.
80 games for $100.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could hold 80 games though.
Well, you don't have to download them all at once.
Oh, well, that's true. Right. Yep.
Yeah. Like,
Exactly.
I think I have like 3 games installed on my current PC because I just don't play Steam games as often as I should. Because I have Nintendo.
Because I have Nintendo. What else? Why would I play anything else?
Why would I do anything else? Right. Anyway. So yeah, besides Breath of the Wild, that's but I played this game a lot. I played Jedi Knight a lot as a teenager, and probably till I was about 19 or 20. I was still playing it, and that would have been in 03, 04. For those of you who are curious.
Those
And,
people drag it home.
yeah, it's really good. It would we can talk about it later. So let's get into the details of this. This game was developed by LucasArts and published by LucasArts. May they rest in peace.
Indeed.
I feel really bad that Star Wars 1313 got canceled because that game looked
Right?
amazing.
That looked amazing.
Right?
That,
To be able to play a bounty hunter in the underbelly of Coruscant.
it just
Like,
sounds
open
fantastic.
world Star Wars, like Assassin's Creed Star Wars. Who doesn't want that? Right?
Right?
I mean, they did Assassin's
Exactly.
Creed Lord of the Rings, and look how well that has worked. They've already got 2 games.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
It's-
yeah, there was rumors a couple years ago of a open world Star Wars game, but all they've ever done was shown a teaser trailer and haven't talked about it since. So I don't know if that's still a thing.
I don't know.
Anyway, but this game was certainly not open world.
No.
Anyway, let's finish up. Nolan, you want to read the next couple names?
Sure. All right. So the director was Justin Chin, and the designer was Peter Chan.
Yes, and Justin Chin worked on the first Dark Forces game, and so it only made sense that he should move on
The second
to
one.
be the main director of the second game. Kind of was his brainchild, if I remember correctly. I was reading some stuff on Wikipedia earlier, and yeah,
Makes sense.
and Nathan, why don't you read the last couple names?
Sure. So composers included John Williams, of course. Anything with a Star Wars score has to include John Williams.
Yeah,
Exactly.
inspired by him.
Again, creator Justin Chin. And it was originally released for Microsoft Windows on September the 30th of 1997.
Yes, and as I learned last week, it has never been re-released on another platform other than Steam. So it never made its way over to, say, the N64 or the GameCube or any of the other consoles that might have been around later that could run this game.
Which was really weird for a LucasArts title.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
Even
I
the
remember,
original Dark Forces made its way to PlayStation eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Right.
It's
Like, yeah, to have a PC exclusive game for LucasArts was very rare.
Because I mean, even I remember when I was playing this game, the other big game I was playing at the time was another LucasArts title, Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine.
Yes, that was on N64, right?
It was on N64.
Yeah, I remember that game. So, yeah, and most of the LucasArts games that I played were on console. All of the Super Star Wars games, the pod racing game, the Phantom Menace tie-in game, you know, Jedi Power Battles. That was also on PlayStation. I played the heck out of that game. Yeah, it's just so weird to, and you know, because there are so many LucasArts games on console, I just assumed this eventually got a re-release, and I was shocked last week to learn that this is only ever on Windows.
Really? Yeah.
But so yeah, this game is presented. It's definitely in the world of Star Wars, but it's like a kind of like Half-Life 1 graphics. It's still very polygonal. The textures they're not low res, but they're definitely not high res.
Definitely not high res.
In the Steam version, there are HD options for like your window size, or even your full screen size. But the problem with that, because HD was not the standard at the time, your HUD gets smaller and smaller the higher you go. So you could play it at 1080, but your HUD is going to be this tiny little thing in the corner.
Just like
you might as well just play it at SD resolutions.
Might as well.
Yeah, I mean, yes, NFX. It's kind of mid-res. I mean, it's sort of like the best N64 resolution you could think of.
Right, because this was a time period when 800 by 600 was like the top end resolution most computers could run.
Yeah, like a $2,000 computer at the time could maybe run 1440. You know, and even then, like, you weren't getting 60 hertz. Like, yeah. So, and it was this squared monitor. It wasn't widescreen. It was squared off.
I remember the one I played it on was a 19-inch CRT that was 1024 by 768.
Yes. Yeah. That was my resolution for a long time. Yeah. Gosh. I love the advent of HD TVs. makes everything better.
Just a little bit. I mean, technically.
I'm sitting in front of a 32-inch screen, and it's, you know, 1080p, and I have 3 windows open, and I still have space. Like,
just
it's awesome. But yeah, so it's very polygonal. By today's standards, it seems dated. But the sound design, LucasArts has always had amazing sound design. I don't know if I said this in the last game, that when we talked about Dark Forces, but learning about the technical aspects of Star Wars, in case you don't know it, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. Learning about the technical aspects of Star Wars and sound design is what got me into doing sound, which is part of my job now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I just loved learning about how Ben Burtt, the sound designer for the original Star Wars trilogy, was so creative in the things that he did, and you know, the effects that he used or didn't use. You know, he took a lot of raw sounds and just mixed them together. And yeah, it was really cool. So the sound design on this game is spot on. It sounds like a Star Wars movie. And there's even full motion video. I think it's digitized video cutscenes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a trend at the time.
FMVs.
It was
so bad.
And the thing is, you know, most of the time we remember the cringy FMV from the period.
Oh yeah.
That, well, like some series just took it and ran with it, like the Command and Conquer series.
Yeah.
They intentionally went super campy because they knew FMV was campy.
Well,
but
it's hard to pay a quality actor for when you're doing digitized video. It's like, this isn't going on a movie screen. What?
Right,
Yeah.
but the acting in Jedi Knight was actually pretty decent.
Yeah, like this could have been a TV series with like the quality of acting and special effects.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could have been a TV series at the time, and obviously, if they had made it into a series, it could have like developed over time, and it would have gotten better. I mean, you watch the early episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and those aren't the best.
What? Those are fantastic. Those are all like of the highest quality television
Right?
there. There's nothing better.
Nah, nothing is ever
Whatsoever.
wrong.
Nothing is wrong.
TV budget sci-fi. Never.
It's the best.
So yeah, in Dark Forces 1, the music was actually obviously it was all MIDI because computers couldn't run WAV files at the time, but the music was actually original compositions by somebody in-house. It was just inspired by John Williams, but for Jedi Knight, they actually ripped all of the Star Wars soundtrack and mixed it into the game. So there'd be like, so every song you hear in Jedi Knight is a real song that's part of the soundtrack for the Star Wars original trilogy, which I thought was interesting. So, kudos to you, sound designer, that I couldn't find the name of online. I'm sorry, sir.
It's probably in the credits somewhere if you were willing to dig.
Somewhere, if I really felt like playing the credits, but I'd have to install the game first. Which, by the way, I have a physical copy of.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah, look at that.
I still have my physical PC CD-ROM copy of this game. This was the re-release. Oh, it fell apart. Dang it. This is the re-release that I got for like $10, like years later. So I didn't waste my money on the giant $60 box that they had back in the day.
If it's any consolation, I got the same re-release there, and my CD case does the same thing every time I open up that game.
Yeah. Hey, the discs stay put, so I'm not complaining. I don't care that the outside is broken as long as the discs stay put. Yeah.
It doesn't get all scratched up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like Windows 10 can actually install the game. I'd have to install XP in a virtual machine.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, the story of this game, Nathan, you're very familiar with this. You want to explain it to our listeners?
Sure. So the story of Jedi Knight centers around one of my favorite characters in the original expanded universe,
which is now Legends.
Yes. Was Kyle Katarn. Kyle Katarn, when we first meet him, he's kind of this Han Solo-ish character who's a smuggler, has his own ship. But as the story develops, and without giving away too much spoilers, he finds out about his heritage. He discovers he is Force sensitive, and he uncovers a plot to basically allow the Sith to take over the Empire, and by extension, the entire galaxy. And basically, the story follows him slowly learning about these Force abilities, and ultimately having to choose, is he going to go to the light side or the dark? And it was if I remember correctly, this was the first Star Wars game to really experiment with Force powers as a gameplay mechanic.
Yes, I do believe so, because it came out before Episode 1, and I know that all the tie-in games for that movie used Force powers, but that was 1999.
Mm-hmm. So, right.
Yeah, this was in 97.
And the original Dark Forces, I believe, was a pure shooter.
Yes.
It was Doom.
It was basically a Doom clone. It did run on a custom engine, but it was a Doom clone.
Yeah.
And so The one thing I do remember about the story that always struck me was the end boss. When you get to the end, he likes to chew the scenery, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It was the one bit of acting in the game that was a little bit like, oh, okay, that's a little over the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, can't be acting,
Can't be acting.
FMVs,
It's the
you
best.
gotta love them.
It's the best.
Oh, it was awesome. But no, it's for the time period, it was a well-crafted story.
Yeah, I actually, this is also one of the first games that has, well, not one of the first games, but definitely an early entry in the, like the light and dark system. I know, was it Fable did that very famously, but
yeah.
There were other games I think before this, probably Black and White. I think. You ever play Black and White?
Yeah, Black and White would have been.
Oh gosh.
Or would it have been Actually, I think it would have been the year after. I think Black and White was 98.
Yeah, let me look at this.
Or maybe thinking of Black and White too.
What year did it come out? Oh gosh, it was 2001. Never mind. Okay. There had to have been a game before this that had a light and dark system. But that kind of adds to the replay value of Jedi Knight is you can go fully light or fully dark, or you can go somewhere in the middle. The only problem with going in the middle is you never got fully powered. And I remember, like, I thought I was going. Actually, I didn't know about this. My first playthrough, I went dark, but I picked like 1 or 2 light powers, and so like I never got the final dark ability or whatever, and so the final boss was harder than he should have been. and then my next playthrough, I went fully light, and I beat the guy in like 1 hit. So, yeah.
It's like going light is like the better way or something.
Well, no, you could beat him in pretty much 1 hit if you go fully dark. It's just visual alignment cues. Oh, yeah. Like. So we got a question in the chat. Did this game show any visual alignment cues? And it's a first-person shooter, so you don't really get to see a whole lot of stuff. The alignment was just mainly like which kind of powers you got. So like you got force lightning instead of, I don't know, a really strong force push. Yeah, and I think the dark side powers were stronger, but the light side gave you this like shield that you could use. I remember, and that's what I used. I spammed it to defeat the final boss. Yeah, it's been too long since I played this game. I don't remember all the exact powers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, with dark, you got all the classic dark powers. You got force choke. You got force lightning. I think the big power at the end was called destruction, and it was basically like having a rocket launcher in your hand.
Oh,
there
nice.
was a rocket launcher in the game, but destruction actually did more damage.
Wow.
Well, of course, it's magic.
Fair enough. You know what? Yeah. When in doubt.
But yeah, light side gave you the shield, which was the only way you could get that. So you could have the personal shields, which you always had,
Yeah,
and would deflect blaster bolts. But then you could have an additional shield on top of that. And if I remember right, there was also a healing power, which like the first couple of ranks, you basically had to stand still for it to work. But
I know that was true in Jedi Knight 2. I don't know if that was true in Jedi Knight 1.
But
it could have been.
It may have been. I may be confusing the two because I played both, and I played them both a lot.
Yeah, I remember that mechanic, and I didn't like it at first, or especially when I went to go replay, and because I gotten so used to being able to heal on the go, and I was like, no, I have to stand still. Yeah. But yeah, the Jedi heal was a good power up to have. Definitely saved my skin more than once.
It makes sense. I mean, yeah, being able to heal yourself is always nice in those kind of games. It's why I like playing those kind of characters and a lot of different things.
Yeah. And I don't know if this game had any real impact on the industry, or but it was definitely influenced by other games at the time, like Quake, and probably was Half-Life. No, Half-Life 1 was like 98.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this game influenced Half-Life to, try and have a really good story. And I know somebody called me out on that recently in Geeks Under Grace. I was like, you should play Half-Life. It's one of the first shooters to have a really good story. And somebody else was like, what about Jedi Knight? Oh, okay,
like,
well.
Oh, well, fine then.
I do remember the multiplayer in Jedi Knight was actually pretty good. It was different because again, it was trying to kind of simulate the Quakes and the other multiplayers. The thinking at the time was you couldn't have a first-person shooter unless it had a multiplayer component.
Yeah, and that's still very common today.
And it was okay. It was an okay multiplayer, but it didn't have like the frenetic action of a Quake or a Doom. But the ability to have force powers certainly added an interesting element to it.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to rocket jump and then force push someone off a ledge while you're rocket jumping.
I could see the appeal in that.
Oh yeah, that's pure bliss. Yeah. So, Nolan, you said you never played this game?
I have never played this one. I played the first one, but I have never played this one.
All right.
To be honest, I kind of forgot that this game existed, that there was a sequel to the first one. So that's on me.
Yeah, I know I put way too many hundreds of hours into this game. Well, not hundreds, maybe about 100. But yeah, just playing it over and over, finding all the secrets. That was the best part, was finding the secrets, because if you found them all, you got an extra token or credit or whatever to use to upgrade your abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's an early example of RPG elements in a first-person shooter. So, yeah. You never think of LucasArts as being like all that innovative, because it's, they just make licensed games, But yeah, that they really did do a lot of things that we almost take for granted today.
Yeah, LucasArts basically, they perfected in the mid '90s the point and click adventure genre.
Oh yeah.
And admittedly, and this is terrible of me to say, admittedly, when Jedi Knight came out is when LucasArts started to make its downswing. But
yeah, probably.
But I think this was one of the last major innovations from LucasArts before that downswing. Because the sequels to this game were published by LucasArts, but they were not made at LucasArts. I think, if I remember correctly, Jedi Knight 2 and Jedi Academy were both made by Ravensoft.
Yes, that sounds right.
Or Raven Software, or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were good games. I played the heck out of Jedi Academy, but I remember there was such a change in tone and quality between Jedi Knight and Jedi Knight 2 that it was very obvious it was very different teams making them.
Yeah, and there was only like a 2-year gap between Dark Forces and Jedi Knight, And it was, again, only like 2 or 3 years between Jedi Knight and Jedi Knight 2.
Mm-hmm.
So like you would expect, some progression, but you're right. There is a definite change. It's not progression. It's a change in the quality. And, it's, some people would say it's good. Others would say it's bad. It's a point of debate. If you're more used to playing the first Jedi Knight, you would probably say Jedi Knight 2 was not an improvement. But I don't know. I liked them all. I never played Jedi Academy, though. But yeah. So this is the second in a game series, sometimes called the Kyle Katarn trilogy, because they kept changing the naming convention. The first game was Dark Forces, the second game was Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, and the third game was Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. They completely dropped the whole Dark Forces moniker. And then Jedi Knight 2 had a spin-off with Jedi Academy, and even Jedi Knight had a spin-off with Mysteries of the Sith. It would, by today's standards, it would be considered DLC content, but I guess back then it was just wasn't even an expansion pack. It was almost a standalone game, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it was a totally different storyline. It featured a totally different character. One of my favorite characters, again from the EU or Legends, Mara Jade.
Yes, that was the whole reason why people liked that game.
But yeah, same engine, completely new story, completely new plot. But overall, a very nice. It refined a number of things from the original game, and I think it was a good way to cap off the engine, as it were.
Yeah. And I always thought LucasArts, when they made these games, that they took a different engine and just put Star Wars skins in it, but that's not true. They actually created their own engines for these games. At least the first two. I know the third game runs on the Quake 3 engine. Actually saw a speedrun of that at SGDQ, and it was insane because you can do some really weird things in the Quake 3 engine.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah. This is an interesting comment. If they don't mention Mara Jade in The Last Jedi, I'm going to cry. She's my favorite character. Jenny, you really should not hold such high standards. You just go in with no expectations.
Now, you're probably gonna hate me for that, but who's Mara Jade?
She was Luke's wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Started out as an assassin for the Emperor, I think.
Yes, she was the Emperor's hand.
Yes. And
okay.
The last directive given to her by the Emperor before he died was kill Luke Skywalker. And he would do this through force influence or something like that. He would implant the directive in her mind. And the only way it would go away is if she completed her task. And so since he was dead, there was no way for him to remove it. And so for years, she had this in her brain, kill Luke Skywalker. But, since the Empire had fallen, she was on the run. She couldn't kill Luke Skywalker until the Thrawn trilogy. And then she finally had the ability to kill him, but they had to work together because Thrawn was trying to kill them both. Yeah, it was really big, complicated mess. And then she ended up killing a clone of Luke Skywalker, and so the directive was completed. And so then she fell in love with him and married him.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big old mess.
Yeah.
And then Disney walked in and said, "No, we're not going to keep any of that."
None of that ever happened. That's what he said. None of that ever happened. It's all legends. Thanks, Disney. just kill some of our most beloved characters. The only one they brought back so far is Thrawn.
I remember when the graphic novel version of The Wedding Between Luke and Mara Jade came out, that particular issue was sold out and had to be reordered for weeks before I could get one.
Dang. Weeks. I never got into the graphic novels. I have a bunch of just the regular novels and paperbacks. But yeah, never got into that. But so I never played this game online. I think by the time I really got into it, all the servers had been shut down. I know that's
a bummer.
Yeah, when it released, I don't think I had a PC good enough to run it, and that's why I had the re-release version. It's because when I finally did get a good enough PC, I went out and got it. Yes, you could play this online. It was very early online first-person shooter, and it was good.
Well,
question mark?
Yeah. For multiplayer at the time, it was pretty good. It wasn't quite Quake or Doom or Duke Nukem, but for online multiplayer in the late 90s, it was above average.
Okay.
I mean, the problem was when it released right around the same time as Quake 3 Arena. And Quake 3 Arena pretty much defined what multiplayer online FPSs were supposed to be during the time period.
Yeah.
And so the comparison always was, well, it's just a slower Quake 3 with force powers.
Yeah.
Even though they don't really play alike at all.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know that at the time, my stepbrother, who is the other big Star Wars nerd in my life, he was really into Unreal Tournament. And he played it because I think he had a Mac, and so he could play it on his Mac. And he was happy about that.
Yeah, that's what all my friends at the time period were into as well when I was in high school was Counter-Strike Sourced when that came out.
Counter-Strike Source, yes.
And UT2K4.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were the big games for them. And so that's what we played all the time. Every time we had a LAN party, it was always CSS, UT2K4, and then whatever random game everybody had a copy of.
Yeah.
I
do know that when you would go online, you could pick your different skins. Like everyone played the same, but you had different skins. And I always thought the Mandalorian skin was so cool. Because he looked just like Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And I still want like a Boba Fett game, Assassin's Creed Star Wars. Like, come on, make it happen.
That would be so legit. Like,
I know we got the Jango Fett game.
Yeah.
Back in the day that on the PlayStation, what was it called? Bounty Hunter. It's called Bounty Hunter. Yeah, and it was all right. I played it recently, and I was just like, man, I wish I had more modern controls because this feels really clunky.
And yeah, you can play the Bounty Hunter class in the Old Republic or Star Wars: The Old Republic, but it's just not the same.
No, not the same. I want an Assassin's Creed Star Wars where I'm Boba Fett. That's what I want.
Just going through everything.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep saying that until it happens. By the way, I'm pretty sure I said that a week or two ago.
Probably.
I mean, there was Shadows of the Empire, which was kind of sort of close.
No, that game sucked. No, it had a really good opening sequence because it's the Battle of Hoth, and I think they used a lot of the same assets from Rogue Squadron. I don't remember if Shadows of the Empire came before Rogue Squadron or not, but like everybody was all like, "Oh my gosh, Shadows of the Empire's opening is awesome!" But then once you get into like the meat of the game, it's really bad, really bad, and it doesn't get good again until you're the ending when you're flying in outer space, trying to stop Prince Shizor from destroying Coruscant or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so no, Shadows of the Empire is not a good game.
Yeah.
Tell us how you really feel.
There's a reason that they reused the Battle of Hoth and used that. Shadows of the Empire came out first. And so they took the battle sequence from the Battle of Hoth and basically used that section of the game to build. They built out the engine part of that and made it into Rogue Squadron.
Yeah. And when I played Rogue Squadron, I was like, oh, this is a lot like Star Fox, but it's Star Wars. But it's not even, I don't know. In some ways it was better, but I would just rather play Star Fox. So, but I do love me a good Star Wars game, though. I need to finish Rogue Squadron.
You not?
What?
You haven't finished Rogue Squadron yet?
No, I think I got to the 5th or 6th level. I never really owned it back in the day. So like I played it on my friends' consoles, and then I then I bought it recently and was playing it and got stuck in like the 5th or 6th level, and I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
But you know, I have a large list of unfinished games on my backlog. One of these days, I keep saying to myself, I'm gonna finish all those unfinished games. I don't know. I just need the motivation. Prince Shizor was a punk. Thank you, NFX, for justifying. No, that's not the word I was looking for.
Expounding, agreeing.
For agreeing with me. Prince Shizor was a punk, and he went out like a punk too. If you ever read the novel, he doesn't die in the game, but gosh, he goes out like a punk in the book, and I was kind of happy, but kind of upset too.
He should have died better.
Yeah. We're supposed to be talking about Jedi Knight, and suddenly we're talking about Shadows of the Empire.
Oops.
That's kind of how this podcast goes. I'm surprised we haven't tangented even more.
A little bit.
I guess one of the reasons this game is kind of important to me is this was the very first game I got to play in 3D. My family had a computer when I was younger, but it was an ancient 386.
Nice.
And so, like, the type of games you could play on that were stuff like, let's see, I had a copy of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Yep.
Nice.
And I also had a copy of Master of Orion, the first one. And I had a copy of Jeopardy for the IBM PC-AT.
Jeopardy, wow. Now, did you have a good enough graphics card to display full color, or was it that awful cyan and magenta?
Oh, it was full-on EGA instead of VGA.
Nice.
So... But no, we finally upgraded our PC. I think it was fall of 2000, winter 2001, to one that had a 16 megabyte NVIDIA Riva TNT2, and that was strong enough to play Jedi Knight. And so that's when I got Jedi Knight. I played it over and over and over. So around the same time, I also got Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. And so those were the first games I really got to play that were 3D accelerated, and it blew my mind.
Yeah. I know a little bit of trivia I found while researching is Jedi Knight is actually one of the earlier games to adopt, excuse me, the use of 3D graphics hardware acceleration using Microsoft Direct 3D. So you probably weren't the only one that this is their first 3D game.
Because I had seen games like Doom, but Doom, if you've ever looked into the history of that game, is not 3D.
Yeah.
The game is actually 2D, and it's rendered into a pseudo 3D using a technique called ray tracing.
Yep. I have looked into it. It's fascinating what they were able to do at the time, and that's why hacking Doom on dumb things is a thing. Because the hardware limitations are hardware requirements are very low. So you put Doom on some really dumb things like the Apple Watch or the Smart Bar of the newest MacBook. It runs at like 2000 by 100 or something like that. It's crazy. And
my favorite was when they ran it on an ATM.
On an ATM, I did not know that. I saw it on an HP printer with a little LCD display. It was like 200 by 300 or something like that.
Wow.
But yeah,
the original, like on those smart fridges or something.
Yeah, that'll happen when those become popular
sure.
enough. Somebody's gonna hack their Android fridge and put Doom on it.
I'm sure.
Well, I mean, all you have to do to get Doom running on anything that runs Android is install DOSBox.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. Ray tracing. I know that Dark Forces, though it looks just like Doom, it doesn't use ray tracing. That game actually is in 3D.
Right. It was an actual 3D engine, which is one of the ways you can tell the difference. Doom, if you've ever noticed, if you shoot at an enemy who's technically above you but is still in front of you, you can still hit them, even though you're not aiming directly at them, because it's actually 2D. Whereas in the original Dark Forces, if you try to do the same thing, that won't work.
Yeah. You actually do have to aim up. There's a bit of auto aim because the controls are clunky, but you do have to aim up. Otherwise, the auto aim doesn't work. So, not in Jedi Knight, Dark Forces 2. That had actually full mouse support, and that's what I was going to say earlier. I forgot. This is one of the first games that I played using WASD and a mouse. And this is the reason why I have so much trouble playing first-person shooters on console, because I was so used to with mouse and keyboard controls for Jedi Knight that I can't make that transition. So holding a controller in my hand and using the two sticks, I am proficient, but I am certainly not good at it. So
you're not alone in that.
Yeah. It's hard for me.
Yeah. I know Patrick is the opposite, because his first person shooter that he ever really got good at was Halo, and of course that's on Xbox. So he can't transition the other way. And since we're talking about first person shooter controls, are you a superior human being using inverted or not?
I'm afraid I typically stick with standard mouse look, because
dang.
Inverted, I get it that inverted is supposed to be like you have your hand on the character's head, but to me it doesn't feel quite natural to me.
That's okay. Some of us, our brain just works differently, and I've always had to use inverted. And I know in playing Ocarina of Time, like I never even thought about the controls being inverted. And then I hear people that are playing it now for the first time, and they're so mad that they can't change the controls. Like, well, I'm sorry, it makes sense. And it did at the time.
Yeah.
So.
The only problem with that was the spindly little analog controller on N64.
Yes.
It's just like
I broke so many of those controllers.
Mario Party.
I never broke one, but the one that I used a lot was definitely wearing out, and I recently replaced it. Do I have it sitting here? Okay, so it's a side-by-side comparison. This is the controller that I replaced the stick on, and you can see how much shorter it is compared to a standard one that sticks out way far.
Yeah.
And this one actually feels more like a GameCube stick than this one. And of course, this is practically new, whereas this one is all worn out and squishy. So, but yeah, there are replacement parts. You don't have to throw away your breaking N64 controllers. It was actually super easy because it uses standard screws. And so you just unscrew everything and you unplug one cable and plug in the new one. And because this great part is the housing for the stick, it's all in one housing, and I mean it's all like one piece. So it's about 10 screws or so. But yeah,
That's actually really surprising to me because Nintendo is usually really big about using their special screws to make sure that you can't service your hardware.
Yeah, you know what's funny is the Switch here uses both standard Phillips and the Tri-Wing that everybody hates that Nintendo uses all the time. I think on the grips, yeah, on the Joy-Con grips, there's the Tri-Wings, but on the console itself, it's got Phillips. And yeah, it's weird.
The difference there being that Nintendo customer service is actually pretty good. I've found, at least in my experience. I don't know about you guys, but like everything I've sent back usually is like a piece of cake. I get it quickly, and it's, you know.
I've never had to use the customer service because all the things I buy from them work for me. So maybe that's a testament in and of itself.
That could be. I wear out things a lot though, so that could be why. But and I end up like getting like consoles that are goofy sometimes, so that's probably why too.
No, but when my NES was wearing out, I fixed it myself, and it only took 30 years for it to happen.
Well, yeah, that was one big difference between several of the early Nintendo consoles. The NES is actually fairly easy to repair. There's a couple little finicky things on it.
There's actually a lot of empty space inside the NES. I don't know if you've seen or taken apart one yourself, but yeah.
I have not personally. Well, no, I did have to take apart mine to fix the issue where, when you insert cartridges a whole bunch, how the cartridges will eventually wiggle in the cartridge slot on the NES.
That's what I had to do.
So yeah, I did have to take off the top to tighten that up. But I have watched. I'm a big fan of the Ben Heck show.
Oh, I love Ben Heck. That's awesome.
And I've watched him take apart NESs so many times at this point that I almost think I could do it myself.
Yeah, that was actually one of the inspirations when my NES was wearing out. I was like, I know I could buy a replacement part, but what else can I do? And like Ben Heck inspired me to fix it, just from all his many hacks. And yeah, and I found a tutorial online and was like, yeah, you don't have to replace it because those things come from China, and it would be better just to repair it, actually. And so I took it all apart and bent the pins back up and cleaned them all and put it back together. Yeah. Once you take the radio shielding off, it's like so much empty space in it. It's crazy. And I don't know if that's for cooling or what, but yeah. Anyway, we've been talking for about an hour. We're kind of running out of things to say, so I guess we'll move on to the next part of the show. Let's guess the Metacritic score for Jedi Knight. This is a fun little thing we like to play here. And we play it by Price is Right rules. That is, if you go too high, you're disqualified. So closest without going over. I think that's how they say it. Closest without going over. And it's out of 100. You don't know how Metacritic scores.
It's not 100.
And I know the number. I found it while researching, so it's in my head. And so, Nathan, you are our guest, so you go first.
Well, I know what score I would give out of 100, but I have a feeling that'd be a little high. So
It usually is.
I'm going to shoot a little bit lower, and I'm going to say 70.
All right.
60.
60. Wow.
I know that sounds low. I'm just like trying to give myself a nice margin there.
Well, it's actually 91.
Whoa!
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah. So you were both way low, but you didn't go over. Now this is based on 10
ever.
This is based on 10 reviews, and I think they're all from the time. There's okay. Yeah, there's 2, 3. There are 3 perfect scores right at the top.
Goodness sake.
And the lowest score is a 50. Wow, from All Game Guide. Yeah, and the guy doesn't like Star Wars, so that's
Well, there's your answer right there.
There's your answer for why he gave it a 50.
Because see, my personal score would have been about a 95, because it wasn't perfect, but it got a whole lot of things right.
Yeah, and I mean, PC Gamer gave it a 94. Electric Playground gave it a 95.
Oh goodness, Electric Playground! I remember watching that.
Yeah. There's some really old reviews here.
Wow.
Yeah.
91.
A 91. It overall is a 91.
I think that's the highest we've ever had.
Probably.
At least of one that we can
more
find.
Star Wars games then.
I guess so. Jeez, man.
Because most of the games that when we do find a Metacritic score, they're like in the 70s.
Like 70. Yeah, I'm like 70, 60 something.
Yeah.
Had a couple of
I was expecting like maybe at most like an 80 or an 85.
But like you said, this was like right when LucasArts was on the downswing, so they were still really good. Like, you know, they hadn't hit their low yet with all those Episode 1 games. No.
Yeah, but Pod Racer though.
The Pod Racer arcade is 10 times better than the N64 game.
Yes, that's true.
Because you use the sticks both.
I know. That was cool. Yes.
It's hard though. It is so hard.
It's very hard. I don't think I ever won a race. Ever. I was terrible at it.
I beat the heck out of the N64 game, but not the arcade. No way.
Yeah.
So, Nolan,
Mm-hmm.
you have a game for us?
I do. After much deliberation, I finally narrowed it down.
All right. So this is the part of the show where we play 20 questions. And Nolan has a game that we're going to talk about next week. Hopefully Patrick is around. Or wait, I think Patrick's going to be out of town next week, right?
Is he?
Oh, gosh. He said he was going to be away for a while. Anyway, we're just going to pretend that Patrick is going to be back next week. So Nolan has a game in mind that we're going to talk about next week. And we get 20 questions to try and figure out what game it is. And again, Nathan, you are the guest, so you ask a yes or no question.
Well, given our title this week, this one seems pertinent. Was this a exclusive for the system it was on?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so last week we talked about 64. So
Yeah, 'cause
next week will be
this next
episode
week is going to
64.
be
So
episode
is this
64.
an N64 game?
It is, in fact.
Yes!
64 game.
64 for the 64.
Oh, of course. I'm like, I have to.
You have
I'm
to.
like, you know what? There's so many good stuff.
Yeah, there are.
So, okay, so if this is an exclusive for the N64, was this a first-party Nintendo title?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, there are so many of those. Is this a platformer?
No.
Okay, so it's not Mario.
Thought about it. Almost picked Super Mario 64.
Why, right? It's the quintessential N64
And
game.
it's like, it was the launch title. I'm like,
We've already
64.
done Banjo-Kazooie, which is a better game, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, then I knew you were going to say that. So I'm like, I'm going to avoid that.
I like Mario 64. It's just Banjo-Kazooie's better.
I know. I will admit that. But yeah.
Nathan, you got a question?
Let's see. Was this one a twin-stick shooter?
No.
How could you do that on the N64?
Sorry, that's probably not the right way to ask that question. I had a specific goal in mind, but I think I missed it. So,
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is a first-party Nintendo game. We established
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So it's not GoldenEye,
No.
because that
not
is the other
GoldenEye.
quintessential N64 game.
Sure. Just only those two games.
We've already done Smash Brothers. No, we did Melee. Is it a fighting game?
No.
Okay,
Was that 6, 7,
that should be 6.
6? Okay.
was this title a sequel?
Not. Sort of. Depending on how you want to think about it.
Sort of.
Sort of. Maybe. I mean.
Well, would it help if I made the question slightly more specific?
Sure.
Was this a sequel to a Super NES title?
No.
Oh, okay.
All right. So it's not Star Fox 64.
We did Star Fox 64.
Did we? You're right.
Yeah.
We did.
That was the first one we did. That was like one of the first games we did.
Yeah, I forgot. It was like in the first
came
10.
out.
Yeah, it was when Star Fox Zero. That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that disappointment.
The sadness.
I beat the story on that game, put it back in the box, and never touched it again. Yeah, so is this... Is it an RPG?
No.
No.
No, I wouldn't do that so
I was
quickly.
thinking maybe Paper Mario, but...
Oh, okay. No. I'm going to wait before the next RPG I pick.
So we know it isn't Super Mario 64.
Mm-hmm.
We know it isn't Paper Mario or Star Fox 64.
It's not GoldenEye.
It's not GoldenEye.
And it's not Smash Brothers.
You asked if it was a fighting game, and I said no. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So no, it's not Smash Brothers.
That's the only first-party Nintendo fighting game that I know of.
Yeah.
On N64.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess it was second party because it's built by HAL.
Details.
Details.
Was this a Pokemon game?
No.
Okay, so that eliminates Pokemon Snap and both the Stadium games.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had a question and then it got derailed. N64. Is this a racing game?
Nope.
So it's not Mario Kart.
No, I was gonna pick that, but apparently we did Mario Kart 64.
We
when I went
did?
in
Oh
here.
my gosh, I'm forgetting
I
all
know.
these N64 games we did.
Well, then I went through. I'm like, wait, have we done this? So I went through the entire library of.
Well, I mean,
of
we have a
podcasts.
games list.
Yeah, but I don't know when the last time that was updated.
I updated it last week.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did put in like 10 episodes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, because apparently Jimmy sat in for me. Back when we did this on early Saturday morning and I couldn't wake up. But yeah. So, but no, not Mario Kart 64.
Well, if it's not a racing game, that means we can also eliminate the F-Zero series.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So no Falcon Punch.
Oh, Falcon Punch.
No Falcon Punch. Unfortunately.
Goodness, I'm running out of first-party Nintendo titles. Was this a Kirby game?
No. Almost picked that though.
Yeah, Kirby 64 is great.
It was actually between Kirby 64 and this. Were the last two. Kirby 64 is one of my favorite Kirbys of all time. If not my actual favorite. But yeah.
Is this a Zelda game?
Yes.
Well, then I know which one it is.
Yeah, I
We've
know.
already done the other one.
I'm surprised it took you that long. Okay. The question is, which one is it?
We've already done the Ocarina of Time.
I
This
know.
has to be Majora's Mask.
Yeah, it's Majora's Mask. So yeah,
So awesome. What was
Yeah.
that? Like 16 questions?
it was getting there. It was
Yeah.
getting close. I'm like, oh. So yeah. So
Awesome.
next week,
I
we'll-
love that game. And I just
Keep
picked
going.
up a 2DS. I should probably go get Majora's Mask 3D.
You should. It's really good.
I already have Ocarina of Time 3D, but I want to play Link Between Worlds first.
I liked it because I'll talk about this more next week but they did a few different things for the 3DS version, which are really nice. But then there's a couple that kind of bugged me. But
Like fishing. The fishing was needless.
fishing and the new clock mechanic, and I kind of like the old version more. But because on 3DS it's just like a bar on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, that's right.
Separated in 3 different colors. But
I remember the very first Twitch stream I ever did, and we'll talk about this again next week probably, was Majora's Mask on N64 when the 3D version came out.
yes, I remember that because I was
played the whole story in one sitting. It took me like 20 hours, and
Metal Gear.
I was dying by the end, and I had to leave for like half an hour to go get an energy drink.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I remember because I was like, dang.
because I didn't have a car, so I couldn't just jump in my car and go anywhere. I had to walk down to the convenience store, which is not close.
Yeah.
And,
No, I would probably not. Depending where you are.
yeah.
So,
Now there are two within walking distance. They're just not exactly close.
yeah, it's not
walking
close
distance.
walking distance.
Yeah. Anyway, cool.
Yeah.
So for our listeners and viewers, be playing Majora's Mask. Either version works. I think it's available on the eShop, also the N64 version on the Wii U. And
you have the original, that gold holographic
yeah, I've got
cartridge.
on my case.
Or
on the
if
other
you got it on the
room.
GameCube, you can with the with that.
Cool. All right. Well,
So-
so we're gonna go ahead, Nathan, since you're our guest, go ahead and tell our listeners where they can find you online. You're not coming through, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
So go ahead and start over.
As I was saying, you can find me online on Twitter at DynamoNed. You can also find me on Facebook at Nathan.e.Davis. Let's see. You can find me on Steam as Dynamo_ND. And if I can throw a quick little plug out there for a little website called Gaming Tribe, you can also find me on there as myself, Nathan Davis.
Very
Gaming
cool.
Tribe is a social network for gamers of all stripes, and they do some pretty awesome giveaways. I won a nice PC there not too long ago.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, I really want to thank you all for letting me come on tonight.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure supporting CFG on Patreon.
Oh, yes. Nathan is one of our Patreon supporters.
Oh, okay.
So,
Cool.
Tell us about that for a minute.
So by supporting you on Patreon, you do get access to the full-length versions of several of the podcasts, but in particular, access to everyone's favorite Patty Plays Pathetically. You get the full uncut stream of those. And believe me, it is worth it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. I know the edited versions are usually hilarious, but Patrick
full length
can rant quite a bit.
He can. Yes, he can.
Yes.
And so some of his rants in the unedited version are amazing. So
if you do support, in particular, look up the one for Another World, because that one, the amount of salt that is generated in that one.
He played that, didn't he? I keep forgetting.
Yeah. Yes. We talked about that on OGC, and Patrick was like, "I'm gonna play this for P3," and oh my,
it's hard. Like I was like, it's a hard game. You got to know what to do.
Yeah.
That's one of those games you really need to read the walkthrough guide.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
like, I don't know how anybody beat it back in the day when there was no internet. Like,
right? Like, what's funny is I knew where to go and how to beat it because I watched the Game Grumps play it. So like I remembered from when they did it. And I'd go through. I'm like, what the heck? And then there's like those random things like, how do I do this again? And it's like, and you accidentally. That is the cool part. Like when you forget, and then it's like you accidentally stumble on what to do. It's like, oh, I got to have him roll grenades down the stairs or whatever, and it explodes a hole in the ground or something. But yeah. That's right. Awesome. I got to watch that because I missed him playing that. I got to watch that.
It is hilarious.
All right, Nolan, why don't you tell us where we can find you on the internet?
All right. You can find me online at most places at Baseman214, Baseman21491, or Icy White Falcon. Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Xbox, Steam, Pinterest, other things that I can't remember right now. It's usually got a picture of my face in some way on there. And he's kind of like, hey, I'm a fan of the show or something. Just let me know, because otherwise I get random requests from names that seem like fake things. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. And anywhere you can find me on the internet, you can find me under Obi-Watt Kenobi. It'd be Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, My Nintendo, PSN, Steam, and wherever games are sold. Ha! Sell your line.
No, you took my line.
No, not where games are sold. No, I'm not on Origin, really. I mean, I am, but I'm not. And I'm definitely not on Uplay, you little snipe. And but you can find the Original Gamers podcast on Twitter at official OG Cast on Twitch. under Original Gamers Podcast on Instagram at official.ogcast. If you would like to listen to the audio version with music at the beginning and the end, which I will talk about in a minute, you can go to, I think it's ogcast.podbean.com.
Yep.
That's it. And the Original Gamers Podcast is part of CrossForge Gaming. So just search for CrossForge Gaming on all of your favorite social media. We're pretty active on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. Support us on Patreon like Nathan does. And so if you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, at the beginning you would have heard, of course, the Star Wars main theme, because how else are you going to start a Star Wars game but with the main theme? That is how this game starts, by the way, is with the opening crawl and everything.
Sweet.
And since all of the music that you hear in the game is ripped audio from the Star Wars soundtrack, there is no like final boss theme. So I just said, let's close out with the closing credits of Star Wars. You know, that you know, the whole upbeat version of the main theme, basically.
Yeah.
So there's that. Thanks for listening, everybody, and for watching on YouTube. Be good, humans.
Bye, everybody.
Say goodbye, Nathan.
Night, everyone.
All right.